On our morning show today from WRCO, we're talking about the National Point in Time, the account for homelessness in our area and across the country. In the studio with us today, Roxanne Klubertans-Gerber, manager with Aging and Disability Resource Center of Eagle Country. We also have J.B. Muller, who's in to talk a little bit about what he does and also about Lydia's House and Bridge of Hope and some other opportunities. And we'll introduce you to Haley Elam, who is the Coordinated Entry Specialist for our area. We'll talk about what she does and what that means as well. So, Roxanne, here we go again. We did this a year ago, I believe.
We do. Yeah, we do this actually a couple times a year.
And you do it in the summer as opposed to like right in the heart of winter time, too, don't you?
We do. So it's always the fourth Wednesday, sorry about that, of January and the fourth Wednesday of July.
Do you notice numbers different for homelessness in the winter and in the summer?
Generally, we find more in the summer, but this year was one of those years that there were a lot of individuals that we found in January, which was unusual for us.
Mm-hmm. And we had that cold snap in January, too, which was really scary, wasn't it?
It was very scary. We had a couple people that were really in critical condition, needing a warm place to stay. So luckily, we had a local church that opened up a shelter for a few days to be able to house those individuals. But it was definitely a scary time this year.
Explain why this is an important thing for not only our area, but all the way across the country, isn't it?
Yeah, so Richland County is part of the Southwest Coalition for Homelessness. And so we do these point-in-time counts twice a year, and we want to be out there and we want to find out how many people do we have in our communities that are struggling with homelessness. From that, when we pull all that together for Richland County, we have a team of individuals that go out through the overnight and look for individuals who are homeless. Once we get all that information, we send it on to our Southwest Coalition lead. They put all of the information together from the 5 Southwest counties, and then they send it to the state. From there, it does go to the federal government, and then that really does help to dictate funding that may come back to our area to be able to help provide supports to individuals who are homeless in our area.
That's what makes it so important. It's not just a count just to find the numbers, is it?
Right. You know, we don't get a lot of funding in our five counties, but we are seeing more and more homelessness throughout those counties. So that's where it's more important than ever for us to make sure that we have those numbers, and we are able to then also through this hopefully connect people to some services or at least some resources to see if they qualify for different types of services.
How many times have you done this personally, if you count winter and summer?
Goodness, I think I am on my 24th or 25th point in time count.
Wow.
So I've been doing it since I started at the ADRC back in 2013.
Has anything surprised you during that time?
I think this year surprised me the most in January is just to see how desperate people were and see how many people that we had that were luckily in shelter, but then there were some that were still in their vehicles and people trying to be in tents. I think this year has been the worst year that I've seen it through all the point-in-time counts that I've done.
Okay. We'll introduce you as well to Haley Elam today. Haley, tell us a little bit about what you do.
Hi, I'm Haley. I work at Family Advocates, which houses my position. So my full position is I'm the SSO for the Southwest Homeless Coalition. So what I do is I manage our coordinated entry database, and so what I do is I'm kind of the entrance into it, although you can be connected to it from other agencies as well. But what I do is I do an assessment with individuals who are experiencing homelessness, maybe at risk of becoming homeless or fleeing any type of abusive situation, to get them connected to those resources within their communities. So my assessment doesn't take too long. Just ask for basic information on what that person's situation is like, and then from there kind of doing some case management with the individual or family to see what supports we can get them connected to.
Typically, how receptive are people when you ask them for information?
A lot of people are kind of already connected with some type of community agency or organization. So I think that kind of warm handoff to me of, they give kind of the background knowledge of who I am and what I do. So I think people are very receptive. a lot of people really do just want help and kind of a listening ear because they've been turned away at places or different things like that. So I get a lot of good reactions from people that are just trying to talk about their situation and get any support they can from it.
It's all kinds of different situations too, because some might even choose to be homeless, right?
Yeah, that can be someone's choice, and we just try to meet people where they are at, and we're not trying to force any support or get them to do things that is not best for them. So a lot of my conversations with clients and individuals is giving them all the information they need, so they can make an informed decision for themselves and what's best for their situation.
So if the group that's counting the homelessness, and then maybe if somebody hasn't been contacted, is that where you step in then after Wednesday?
Yeah, so after Wednesday, if they haven't been contacted with, they can still be included in that point in time count up until a week after, if they disclose that they experienced homelessness Wednesday night. So we can still connect them with resources, count them. So from there, it would be trying to find different supports for them. So yeah, a lot of law enforcement will reach out to me, agencies like ADRC, trying to get supports for their clients. So yeah, a lot of different community connections will reach out to me after the count, if anybody wasn't connected with.
Mm-hmm. And Passages, another great resource in our community as well.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. Passages covers this area, and then Family Advocates is also another one in connection with our Southwest Homeless Coalition. And then we also have Greenhaven Family Advocates in Greene County.
Do you find this work rewarding?
Yeah, I very much so love the work that I do. Like I said, a lot of people just kind of need someone to listen to what they're going through, and I try to, understand their situation and connect them with resources. But being a support system is, for somebody, to me, is a really, really rewarding thing to do, and just knowing that I was able to listen to somebody who maybe doesn't always get listened to.
Well said. J.B. Muller is in the studio with us as well. This is one of the organizations you're involved in, one of the many. Why do you do it?
I'm with Lydia's House and also with Bridge of Hope, a charity that I started to St. Barnabas Church, and also on the Richland County Homeless Coalition Board. And so what I do is that I have 14 different or 15 different agencies that I can contact or give them to contact. So that way when I do what I call intake on them, I ask them a series of questions, and that way I can direct them to the ADRC or other agencies where they can best fit their needs and what situation they're in. My demographics, and I try to get these all to the state because that's important for funding and stuff. My demographics last year were 3 months to 80 years old.
Wow.
And there's a lot of children out there, and that's what we take care of, a lot, children and stuff. And then we find out that if they're on certain type of other programs and if they're using them, and sometimes we offer financial counseling so that they can make their checks last. And probably some people say that people come to Richland County because of our benefits here. We found that about 85, if not more, percent of the people that come for help usually have family in this area. And that's why they come here, but then what happens, nobody ever grows up saying, I want to be homeless, and nobody ever grows up and say, I want to be addicted. It's certain circumstances beyond their control that they need to be directed back to where they belong. And if we find situations where we can't handle that, we can also refer them to charities in La Crosse and also to Madison, where there's more of a variety, like the Catholic Diocese. Salvation Army has a larger, broad base and stuff. But a lot of it is just trying to, for one thing, make the people who are calling in comfortable, because they're not used to asking for help sometimes. And if I can get them to laugh on the phone, I've accomplished some of my mission and stuff. But the thing about it is that a lot of these people, I go to runs at Richland Center 3 times a day. I go exactly where they're at because I know all of their locations. So I go to every place where they're holed up at. And our best information we get about homeless people is from the homeless people themselves. they're pretty well, there's kind of a connection with all of them there. And if you see, and we recognize which ones are homeless by how they're living, how their car looks and stuff. So we try to keep gas in their car, especially during the summer, to keep the air conditioner rolling, and then during the winter to keep the heat rolling, so that they don't. First thing I like to check is make sure the car is safe, so there's no chance of carbon monoxide poisoning and stuff. And then a lot of this stuff, and another one we broker through too, or broker, I hate to say broker, but partnership with, is the Richland Thrift Shop. They're our source for getting clothing to people that need it, shoes. The most requested item that homeless are looking for is socks. That is because by keeping their feet dry and warm, that's part of the battle there. And we did have a couple last time that got what was called trench foot, where they had to be hospitalized because their feet weren't dry because they were living in tents. So you got to be conscious of that and stuff. And a lot of them too, if I know just exactly how they move and stuff. Like if they are out in the elements and they have backpacks, we supply them with what's called emergency food, and that is snacks that are don't have a perish date on them, vitamins. Sometimes we give them hats during the winter, gloves, nutritious snacks, vitamins and stuff that really is important. And another thing we do too is supply them. The ARDC supplies them what I call them goodie baskets, and that is on some of these programs. Some of the programs that the government has is pretty hard to navigate them, which ADRC does an excellent job because they're kind of scary. And so also what Bridge of Hope supplies is soaps and commodities. That means for your personal hygiene, toothpaste, toothbrush, deodorants, paper towels, all that kind of stuff where you can't purchase off a share card. I call them share cards and stuff. So that way there's cleanliness, because I think the more a person who's homeless feels good about themselves, the more they're apt to get, take care of themselves stuff. And somebody says, well, they can pull themselves up by their bootstraps. Well, what if you don't have a decent pair of boots to wear? And it's just like with a food pantry. Some people say, well, their cars are better than mine. I said, but that might be their home. That might be where they're living. And so you've got to look, you got to walk in their shoes for a little bit and see just exactly what kind of life they're living and stuff.
So you say you kind of know where where to find them, but I mean, I'm guessing that you take tips as well, right, from law enforcement and different
law enforcement. We're in contact with them, and normally what they'll do is they'll give us a call, because normally what happens is ADRC works 5 days a week, but I work the weekends, and that sometimes the calls come in there. And what I do is I temporarily take care of that until they can get to the services that they need. We used to do motel vouchers, but that dried up, and we no longer is feasible for that. I do have one local that will take them, but it takes transportation. Gas cards are a premium to keep gas in the card, and also two taxi cars through Richland Transit. That way they can get to their appointments, get to where they've got to go, and we always make sure they make their appointments, that they're hitting their mark, to make sure that they are trying their best to get out of the situation that they're in.
When you do an interview, what are some of the types of questions that you ask?
The first thing I ask their name, and I have them spell it out to me. And the reason I do that is because I'm not very good at hearing. Just ask my wife. But anyway, and the reason I do is that way I can get the name properly and stuff. And sometimes I've found out when I'm doing intake, the story changes as I go along, which I means they're kind of a little bit of a red flag. And I get their date of birth, I get how many children are in the family and their ages and their gender, and sometimes their race too, so that we can give those demographics to the state of Wisconsin, and I give them to ADRC, and they send them into the state. I also ask them I go into the specific of what they need, what their situation are, which, like, do you need clothing? Do you need food? Do you need emergency food and stuff? Do you need any of these things? And what I do is that I can curtail that list to tell them exactly where to go and what agencies to get a hold of. Like they'll say, I'll tell them where the food pantry. I tell them where they, what time they serve and how much food they serve, which is you have to make compensation, because if they're in motel rooms, you're going to get too much food for you to put into that motel refrigerator. So we tailor that to just microwave. They're not healthy, but microwave dinners and stuff. Where if they do have a refrigerator and can fix food, then we go into more like potatoes and where they can do food. But like with the food pantry, I can just call them ahead and talk to their president and say, we have a person coming through that's homeless, and they take care of that. Trudy at the thrift shop's the same way. I'll tell her a client's coming in and they get all the clothing that they need, so that, and she helps us out with that.
I'm not sure Richland Center is unique, but you surely have a lot of places locally that people can go, don't you?
We have a lot of places that they can go, and Richland County has a lot of programs and stuff, but those programs are needed because of the demographics of our area, and because of our poverty level and stuff like that, we have some very good services here for people.
Roxanne, as Jay's talking, we think about individuals that are homeless, but a child being homeless, that just breaks your heart, doesn't it?
It does. And, like Jay said, we have seen people from, infants all the way up into their 80s. And you think of those older individuals and you think of those young children and some of our most vulnerable people within our communities. And I think that's why we're so passionate about it. We want everybody to have a place to live. We want everybody to have those opportunities. And so I think that's what really drives us, to make sure that we know really how many people are out there, so we can bring as much funding to the community as possible to hopefully be able to get some individuals housed.
Can you talk a little bit about how this will work on Wednesday night, the National Point in Time, and what the hours are and everything?
Yeah, so it's an overnight count. So we actually, Richland County has always had really robust groups of individuals that go out looking. So we break it up into 5 different routes. We go out to the Casanova area. We have a route there, one that goes down through Lone Rock, Muscadet, out through Bear Valley even. And you would think, oh, where are you going to look there? But even just looking at the ball diamonds, looking under bridges. We also have one that goes out to Boaz and down to the 5 Points area, one that goes out to Viola, and then right in this center of Richland Center as well. So we have those routes. We also have just a really wonderful partnership with our local law enforcement. So police and the sheriff's department, I give them packets as well, so that if they encounter people that are experiencing homelessness, they will fill out that paperwork as well. So we really do a really nice job of covering the entire county, looking for individuals. We also make sure that we have information about resources. So we have quite a few ADRC staff that do it, so they're very well versed in resources, and so they take those resources with them. We also usually take a food bag with us. We have household baskets, and those household baskets have like laundry soap and personal care items, things like that. In the winter, we have some sleeping bags and things like that we take with. So we just take a lot of information with us, and then we go out and talk with individuals. I think it was last summer, we had quite a few people. It might have been 2 summers ago now, but we had people that were camping in the park, which you can't do anymore. And our staff spent about 3 hours out there just with many of those individuals were homeless, and hearing their stories, and families and single adults and disabled adults. So hearing their stories, talking to them, making sure that they had information and resources. So that way, at least at the end of the night, we knew that we were able to do something.
If someone is listening and they're worried that maybe this person's going to be missed, or maybe you should check on this person, should they call ADRC?
They should really have the individual reach out to us. So we're not allowed to cold call anybody. It really does need to be that individual reaching out to us. But they should reach out to the EDRC. We may not be able to house them, but hopefully we can at least get them in touch with different resources that may be able to help improve their situation.
Haley, is there sometimes maybe an unfair stereotype surrounding homeless that you can think of?
Yeah, I do think there is. I think everybody is, and I mean, if you look specifically at this area, looking at our Alice reports and just kind of the income level of everybody and the community members, I think kind of all of us are a little bit away from one crisis that could possibly send us into a situation where we're losing our housing or we're at risk of losing our housing. And I think that is kind of hard for people when they see someone who may be, homeless in a tent or sleeping on the bench to kind of realize that, that's not too far for a lot of people, especially a lot of people in this area. A lot of people are living paycheck to paycheck, behind in rent or different things like that. So I think it's kind of awareness of being like, that could be your neighbor or your teacher. I've had very different people from all walks of life, the older population as well. I've seen a very much more influx of the older population needing more support as well. So yeah, I think there's a lot of unfair stereotypes. Talking to people and talking to community members, I feel like it is a lot of education and just being like, that person could be you or you could be that person. And we all kind of need a hand up when we're down. So just trying to take it from that approach of, this could be someone I know, and that's kind of how I always look at it. That could be my grandma on the phone that's needing help, or that could be my cousin that needs help, or a friend. So just kind of taking it from that standpoint. And, a lot of people, I feel like with the homeless population, thinks it's all substance abuse or mental health. And I think it's really hard to address some of those issues when you don't have a stable place to call home and lay your head at night. It's really hard to address the addiction issues when you're constantly worried about, where am I going to sleep tonight? How am I going to get food? So I think just kind of putting that into perspective as well, like, housing is in my opinion, it's a basic human need. Like, you can't really figure anything out if you don't have housing or secure, stable housing or anybody to help with that. And some people don't even have any type of support to kind of help them up. So I think for us that do have that support, being grateful that we have that support, but also being ready for when a community member we know needs that support and being able to help them with that.
Somebody mentioned financial guidance as well. I mean, I think that's a good point to bring up to somebody, is that you can let this go or that go. You can even let a phone go if you have to, but that roof over your head is the most important, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. And then if you think about someone who's on, fixed income, they're going to have an even harder time trying to afford housing and other expenses that come into play as well. And that's not even counting a bad situation popping up of a car breaking down and needing a repair, and how is that person going to afford their housing and that, when those are both very essential things, housing and transportation. So yeah, it's very, very difficult for people, but just trying to connect them with programs that might be able to help address some of those income issues they might be facing, whether that's barriers they personally have or just trying to get in connection to that. So using our partnerships that we have with like workforce development, W-2 programs, stuff like that, to try and help individuals and families, increase that income, because that will ultimately help them. If we can help them for a transitional period, to help them get back on their feet and be able to secure housing and stability going forward.
Roxanne, did you have something to add to that?
Wow, she said a lot. So she really covered it really well. I think she's exactly right when you think about, if you don't have a place to lay your head, how can you don't get the rest to be able to address things. The other thing that we are seeing here in Richland County is we have some individuals who are homeless that are applying for disability. And I think that has to be addressed as well, is at the federal level, people applying for disability, it's taking well over a year. And so those individuals have no income, they're disabled, they're sick. So if you think about, how are we going to house individuals? How are they going to pay for that housing? Especially when many times they don't have any supports. They don't have individuals that will allow them to stay with them for one reason or another. And so if you don't even have an income, how do you meet your basic need? And if there's not places for people to go for that transitional period, and even if they are able to go for a transitional period, most transitional housing is for up to 90 days. And if it's taking well over a year for people to get disability that need it, then what? so people don't even have that option of how do I even pay for anything because they have no money.
Mm-hmm. Jay, during your time, have you witnessed individuals that you've seen get back on their feet and kind of turn things around?
There is success stories. And one lady that I helped, she ended up in an abusive situation. She ended up with the partners that she's with now, and so is her child. They left the shelter with nothing on their backs. And so we all pulled together and got her goodie baskets and taxi cars to get her back and forth to work. And one day I was at a local bank, and this lady was doing business plans. She says, "You don't remember me, do you?" And I said, I go through so many faces. She says, "You helped me." And she said, and I actually got her a nice coat. It was during the winter because she left with nothing. And I got her a very, very nice coat, which thrift shop just gave to us and stuff. And I said, I remember the coat, and I said, "Whatever happened to that?" And she goes, "I still have it."
Yeah.
And one time we gave a coat to a child that was at a local motel, and because some of the children don't know what normal is, because they're at food pantries, they're in motels and stuff. And so I asked this lady, I said, what do you need most? She says, "Well, my boy doesn't have a coat." So I got him a coat. When he put that on, you think he just gave him $1 million.
Wow. Very rewarding. I know you do this through your church as well. This is one of the many things that we can try to make a difference in our community, right?
Difference in the community, and one thing that's nice about it is the St. Barnabas. I report to them every month and yearly, and they don't want to know any of the names. They just make sure that we run our budget and stuff, and we go for grants, and we get grants and stuff. But it is very rewarding.
Yeah. And the extreme weather, we talked about it last winter, but it's extreme weather going on, it has been in July too. So,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's just like winter was terrible, and then now summer with the heat and stuff, and there's places that they can't go and stuff. Matter of fact, what happened is that when the rain starts coming in and the river comes up, that excludes them from underneath the bridges, and so they go to a different area that's higher ground. And then when the river goes down, then they go back.
We think about it. I would be scared, but I mean, a lot of them are used to it, I guess. But
they're used to it, and there are very few of them, but there's some who choose this lifestyle.
Yeah,
and also too, we pay attention to campers that are plugged into homes. We know that they're actually feeding off electricity and staying outside. And we have one individual that has a camper, and then he moves it all over the place and stuff. So,
are you looking for volunteers for the Wednesday count, Roxanne?
We are always looking for volunteers for this. So if anybody is interested in volunteering, they can reach out to me at the ADRC at 608-647-4616. So we're always looking for that. And we're also, we have our Richland County Homeless Coalition that Jay and I are a part of, and we're always interested in having community members become a part of that as well, to be able to hopefully become part of the solution for individuals who are experiencing homelessness.
Amen.
The other thing I wanted to mention is you had brought up the churches, and so in Richland County we have a really strong group of churches through the Richland County Ministerial Association, and then Lydia's House Ministries is actually made up through a group of different churches coming together to address homelessness. And so I think that's another strength that Richland County has above some of our other surrounding counties. And so we've worked really hard as a community to address homelessness over the last 15 years, but we definitely just have a lot further to go.
It's good to meet you, Haley. Anything else you'd like to add today?
It's nice to meet you as well. Thank you for having me. The only last thing I would like to add is if anybody does want to volunteer, maybe outside of Richland County as well, to kind of either join our Southwest Coalition or possibly volunteer for the point in time count that will be held the same time in the other surrounding counties, they can reach out to me as well at 608-732-7310.
Wonderful. Anything else, Roxanne, this morning?
No, I think that's it.
Good. Jay, thanks for what you do as well.
Okay, thank you.
You bet. J.V. Muller joining us, Roxanne Kluber-Towns-Gerber, and Haley Elam. Again, Southwest Homeless Coalition is going on with the National Point in Time count. That's coming up Wednesday into Thursday, July 22nd and 23rd.